done choking down the last year's stale corn nuts there, RJ?
You did choose to tell everybody. Yes, there was a leftover package of corn nuts here, and there were a few left in there. I'm like, you know what? I need some energy for this post game. They were quite stale, but I think that kind of sets the tone perfectly for given how the game went.
Yeah, and that's why I've decided to bring it up. Thanks everybody for joining us here at Emerald City Hockey's post game live, presented by Queen Anne Beer Hall. This is a rough one, RJ. Obviously, 5-1 loss is never a fun thing. It's never a good thing. However, I do think that there were some positives here. And I'm just going to start off with this, RJ, or maybe I
All right.
should save it. But I am going to start this off and I'm going to throw it out there. This was actually encouraging for me as far as I think I would rather see Minnesota in the playoffs. And I'm saying that after this game over, let's say, like a Vegas or a Colorado or a Dallas. I think I would rather see Minnesota after this game. Am I crazy? Am I
I
nuts?
think a little bit. I want to know why, and I understand. I think I might know where you're going with this because the Kraken were able to generate a lot of really good chances, and they were able to get to
Yeah.
the middle, and they were able to suppress shots really well against the Wild. But the problem is, if you play the Wild in the playoff series, you still got to face Marc-Andre Fleury. And in the playoffs, especially in a small sample size, goaltending rules all. I don't know. Tell me why it would be a good thing to face Marc-Andre Fleury in the playoffs.
I mean,
And do you remember, this is not 27. I mean, no, it's like 2015 or whatever it was anymore. This is 2023.
This is 2023. Look, Marc-Andre Fleury last year with Minnesota in the playoffs went 2-3, had a 906 save percentage. That's hardly, world beating. Like he is still beatable in the postseason. Basically anywhere away from Vegas, he is beatable in the postseason. So I don't think it would be that bad. I also think that look, he's logged a lot of games this year. I just think that that's he's 38, RJ. He is 38 years old. He is going to slow down at some point. Postseason seems like the spot to do it. I just think you outplayed Minnesota through so much of this game. So much of this game, the Kraken outplayed Minnesota. They won the face-off battle against Minnesota. I mean, like, they outplayed Minnesota at every stretch. Matt Boldy is not going to stay this red hot, like unbelievably hot, the way he's been right now. That's not going to happen come playoff time. I don't think that Marc-Andre Fleury can goalie you every single night. Like, I just don't think that that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I guess that's where we disagree. I do think Marc-Andre Fleury can goalie you every single night if you are the Seattle Kraken. He's done it basically every time they've faced him in his whole career. And then also they get Kaprizov back, and that's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, that is going to be a little bit dangerous, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be all right. I really do. I think it's fine. Let's see what chat has to say. Ty, one team wanted to win and two players. I don't entirely.
Is there like
Is there
a
a
later part
second
of that?
part to that? I'm not seeing one. Sorry, Ty. Let's see. Kraken Hawk. I really hope the boys remember this night if we go up against Minnesota in the playoffs. This was frustrating to watch, and I'm sure to play. They need to use this game as a drive when it counts. I do think that's another reason why you could potentially go up against a Minnesota. Like, the Kraken will be more motivated to play and to win. And like I said, they already were in this one and they played super well. Like games like this where you substantially outplay your opponent don't end 5-1 against you very often. And the fact that
they
you get it
don't.
out of the way now before the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, but yeah, that's the thing. It could be good to get this out of the way. The more I've just kind of been thinking about it as we've been going on. The Wild also, like, they can finish. That's one of the things that worries me. We've talked about this like all season. Like, there are teams that can. Oh, hi Afra. Okay, I'm gonna just stop with my point right there. How you doing? We need her here after this one.
I was gonna say Therapy Dog Afra is here. She did this all on her own. I was not trying to derail you there, RJ. I think she's trying to say that I'm crazy. That's why she's trying to get so close to the mic. She's just trying to say I'm nuts for going off on Minnesota here. So I read the yikes and the painful in chat and the striatic. I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Yep, that's why we're here too.
Yeah, I mean, Lindsay, you still prefer Minnesota over Dallas in the playoffs? Fleury and Ottinger are both going to be nightmares to go against. Fleury will be a problem to go against. I'm not saying he won't be, but I also don't think that this this happens night in, night out. I think you're a substantially better team than the Wild on paper for the Kraken outside of the crease. And I don't know. I have enough painful memories, I guess, of Flower to not trust him.
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. I think you're thinking of those just a little bit too much from about a decade ago.
You know,
But
how many
yeah,
cups did he win with Vegas, RJ?
well,
Just
yeah.
saying. Just saying, right? Like,
Goalies are just so matchup based. Like there are certain goalies that have the Kraken's number. Like, hey, if they face James Reimer in a playoff series, I'd be scared.
yeah.
You know, like you know, he had the who's the other one that always does?
Well, it was Flower and
Summers.
Reimer. Those are the two that come to mind
Yeah.
for me.
So heck, yeah, Minnesota with James Reimer in it. It's weird. Goaltending's weird like that.
Yeah. It is a little weird. Okay, what are you doing here, you? Seemed like they just stopped playing at times, or possibly I just missed the whistles because ESPN won't stop doing interviews during play from Bahrain. That is a problem with these ESPN like national broadcasts. I don't know why they like to do that so much. I mean, there's plenty of other opportunities to do those coach interviews. I feel like back at the NBC days, very rarely would it kind of bleed into play. But these ones, I mean, they go on a long time. It's a lot of questions they ask the coaches.
It is. I mean, they've kind of built that as like a centerpiece of the broadcast and really trying to do a lot of that stuff. But yeah, then they've got to put the play down in a little window and everything. And sometimes it's the start of a power play and you're missing some really key time. I'm not a big fan of that.
I'm not a huge fan of it either. Although I will say, you know what, the part of it that really frustrates me, you see like how engaged the coaches are for those interviews. They're like totally there. They're giving it the full attention while a game is going, and I'm just like, I don't know. It just feels weird and wrong to me. I don't know. But as far as like they seems like they stopped playing at times, I agree with that. I think there was a point in this one, mainly the entire third period, where the Kraken just were like, dang, we hit a wall and this is just not working. We're outplaying them and we have nothing to show for it. And then, you know, they still, even with the Kraken, I feel like not being at 100% effort for that third period, managed to continue to outplay the Wild through parts of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Minnesota took their foot off the gas a little bit, but you could see the moment too after that third goal where they allow a breakaway pretty much right after that, yeah, Johansson hits the post and crossbar. Like that's the point where you're like, okay, this is kind of it for the Kraken tonight.
Yeah, that was it. Bach, our only hope is that we play against the Avs in the first round. Clearly can't handle Minnesota or Dallas. I can't wait to see the Groovy haters pin this entire loss on their goalie. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not on Grubauer a night like tonight. I know the save percentage is just taking a beating right now as the Kraken continue to be really good at shot suppression. But, you know, you look at the goals, like the Middleton goal. When is he supposed to see that? You look at the first Boldy goal. It's like, well, that's, you know, you're going to let any player walk into the slot there on a power play, like they score. That's just what happens. You could say that about a couple of these. Like, I don't think Grubauer played especially bad, despite the numbers looking really bad. That's in part just because if your team's not going to allow a lot of shots, it means the ones that get through do that much more damage to you.
Yeah, we talked about this on the podcast earlier today, just kind of the way the Kraken play, and it can make goalies look worse than what the numbers are. I mean, this one looked particularly bad numbers wise. I mean, 4 goals against on 13 shots. That's not going to help the save percentage at all. The only one I really would kind of want him to have is that third one. So the second Boldy goal that kind of, it went through Benir's legs. It's tough to track, but you want your goalie to get some piece of that, hopefully. But other than that, I think that's the only one.
Yeah. Let's see here. Kraken, our goaltending has not been very hot as of late. Do you see Hackstall bringing up Driegs or Decord in the rotation in the next few weeks as we approach the playoffs? We talked about that on the deep dive earlier today. Bottom line is no. I think it's going to be, barring an injury, it will be Grubauer and it will be Jones. And really, it's going to be Grubauer. That's the
pretty
bottom
much.
line.
Go for it. Well, I feel like we should also, again, we've addressed it a little bit, but like we're getting some pushback here with like AK, not on Grubauer. Are you out of your mind? Seriously? Like the other factor for this one too is, look, the Kraken didn't score a goal until very late in the game. Like this,
yeah, the game was over.
Look at the game in its entirety. Yeah, you basically got shut out in all the game that mattered too. Like that has to take precedence too. Grubauer can't score goals.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, show if the Kraken had been able to do what the Wild were able to do, say on the Middleton goal, the first goal of the game, Flowers not stopping that.
No.
You know why? Because he can't see it. like that's why. You got like 5 people between him and the puck. Like it's just there are some things that are just basic that no goaltender is going to be able to deal with. And the bottom line is the Kraken have been putting their goaltenders in tough spots like that. You look at Grubauer's last start against the Predators. Again, it was like the same thing. You had like weird tips down low, or you had total screens. I mean, there's nothing a goaltender can do in those situations. For the Kraken, it's about putting the opposing goaltender, especially on nights like tonight. It was very clear very early on in this one, RJ, that Flower was on. And he was stopping everything the Kraken were trying to do. This is where I would like the Kraken to try to pivot, try to get more traffic in net, try to focus on that instead of trying to continue to focus on this kind of spread out offensive zone attack, trying to get some puck movement going. No, get old school, take away the goalie's eyes, try to get a goal or two, try to score a greasy one in and around the crease, get a rebound, something like that, and then work from there. But the bottom line is when you can tell when a goalie is feeling it that night, and then you've got to do whatever you can to stop them from having that feeling. And if that means getting in their face, if it means giving them a little bump, Kraken have to be prepared to do that come playoff time. And right now it doesn't look like they are.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Schwartz, I guess, in a way, tried early on taking that goalie interference penalty, kind of running into Fleury, but he was unfazed by that. But yeah, I mean, you've got to just get in his eyes. And Dave Haxtell, I think, was asked about that this morning, too, with facing a good goalie like Saros and then another one like Fleury tonight. You know, how do you create goals against goaltending like that? And I think his answer was like, well, the old fashioned way. You know, you don't do anything fancy. You just put traffic to the net and give them shots where the goalie can't see it. It really is the old fashioned way of generating goals it's tried and true. I'd like to see the Kraken again, just do a little bit more there. The Wild did a good job of that tonight. There are a few plays tonight where I'm just like, oh man, Kraken just steal that, do that exact same thing that the Wild just did.
Yeah, just copy paste. It could be that easy. Lindsay, the worst part about this loss, aside from throwing away the valuable 2 points in the standings, is no John or JT to come for us with funny riffs and joking through the pain. That is always the worst part. Is getting stuck without our normal group of guys there doing it all. I mean, and Piper with the intermission interviews and everything, like the whole broadcast. You miss it every time Root's not in charge. Tammy, I was frustrated, but more by Fleury's goaltending. I thought the Kraken played pretty hard in this one. Glad to see them break the shutout instead of just giving up. Yeah, and you look at how that shutout got broken. It was just kind of by like a bunch of people in and around the crease, and you get a lucky bounce. That's kind of what it takes sometimes.
Yeah, Geeky immediately net front with the tip that was very close to just going in itself. I was surprised that didn't just go in. But then you have guys following it up on that with Schwartz coming in. Like that's the old-fashioned way. That's how you score goals on a hot goalie.
Yep. Stratic, Sprong, Tanev, Donato played okay, but got flurried. Other than that, I'm not sure any Seattle line massively impressed despite outshooting the Wild. Now, I mean, they maybe didn't impress, but there was still tons of time where the puck was in the Minnesota zone. I mean, there was a lot of time where the puck is just in the Minnesota zone. Kraken are cycling. I mean, there was some great shifts from like the Maddie line. It just, they weren't able to really generate offense or even all the time, shots at times off of it. And that's a problem. The other thing, 0 for 3 on the power play. Again, you pick up a couple goals on a power play, especially early in a game, the entire rest of the game changes. And this is, again, something the Kraken have to figure out if you want to win games in the playoffs. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but it's true. There's no way around that fact.
Exactly. And that's probably my biggest criticism of the Kraken's game tonight is just the power play and kind of how little, movement, how little, just creativity on it we saw. And that's been the story all season. But the one thing I'm like, steal that too, with the Wild on, I think it was their last power play that they got, that low to high play, catching Eriksson Ek in the slot there, yes, where you had Boldy kind of moving across the crease basically to get lost, so you couldn't find him down below the net. You move the puck to him quickly, he moves it immediately to Eriksson Ek. Like, Kraken, try that, do that. Like, especially like Bjorkstrand in front, move Wenberg from right to left and do that kind of thing. Lots of things like that I'd like to see the Kraken power play try, but it makes a big difference in a game like this, where you're desperate for a goal just to get into the game.
Yeah, I remember Minnesota running that last year. Like, I don't know why every team hasn't stolen that. You know what I mean? Like, but like, yes, it could be that simple. Like just you have to draw it up. You get guys to practice it, and then it works. Like that's all that has to happen. I don't know. I don't know why it's so difficult on the power play for the Kraken. I really don't. Pablo, this was a bad game. Yeah, it certainly wasn't a good one. AKA, Jesus, just be honest. Our goaltenders are horrible. The sooner you admit it, the sooner it is to change. I could hop on board with Grubauer being bad. Doesn't change his contract. He's going to be He's going to be the Kraken goaltender for a while. Like it isn't going to change. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for better or worse. Yeah, he's the goalie for the next several
Yeah,
years going
we
forward.
all know Martin Jones probably not back next year, just because of Drieger, Decor, all that other stuff. But Grubauer is here for a while. There's no way around that. Flower show from Markey, definitely. It was definitely a flower show today. Dace, very unfortunate that this team has tied itself to Grubauer long term. Doesn't really feel like they're ever going to be able to get deep in the playoffs with him as the number one tender. I I don't know. Like I said, I feel like if the team in front of him played better, he could be better. There's a lot of goaltenders like that, right? Like there's like the elite tier guys that can take over anything at any given time just because they're that good. And no, he's not that good. I would not put him in the top, S tier of goaltenders. But Grubauer is one of those guys that can kind of play up or down to the level of team in front of him. And I feel like on nights like tonight, he's playing down to the level of the team in front of him. And so it's not entirely on him. Again, talking about the contract, I would have never signed him to that contract. I know you're in agreement about that. Like we talked about
Very
that
much
at
so.
the time. Like at the time we talked about that, probably not being the best case scenario, but knowing that he is here, we have seen the flashes of him being the guy capable of winning a lot of games with the Kraken. It's just the Kraken also have to be playing well in front of him. He is not going to steal a series for you. Correct. I'll give you that, but that doesn't mean he's trash or he's going to lose you one either.
Right.
Sarah,
There aren't.
yeah,
Sorry, go
go
ahead.
for it. Sorry, no, go
I
for
would
it.
say there aren't many games that he loses you. It feels like a lot of the times that we're talking
Mhm.
about Philip Grubauer and having a rough game, we're in a post game just like this talking about it. We're juggling that with several other issues that also happened in the game, just like tonight. There aren't a whole lot of games where it's just that's the one difference is you played well enough to win and Grubauer didn't hold up his own end of the bargain. And so in the playoffs, it's about how the team in front of you does.
Yeah, and I know I'm pushing back kind of hard on that one, but it's just because I really do feel there are things about this team that, if they were more improved, if they could clear the zone, if they could handle net front defense better, if they could score on the power play, that I really, really do think that all of those things would make a much bigger difference for the Kraken than swapping out goaltenders, right?
Yeah.
Or
And to
having
be fair,
somebody
that's the thing.
different than
Like,
Grubauer.
I think you can find a fair amount of goalies where that will be the case, where they'll play as well as the team in front of them does. And that's why I
Yeah.
don't support a contract like that. But, Grubauer's not losing you games.
Yeah, exactly. Studs, I made sushi during the game and it's absolutely baller. Duds. Oof. That's a very accurate, Sarah. Glad the sushi was good though. Lindsay, they didn't even have Kaprizov tonight, Dylan. I know, and that would obviously, make the Minnesota Wild a little bit better. But also right now without Kaprizov is why you've got Boldy going off. And so you add Kaprizov back in just around playoff time. Chemistry always gets messed up by stuff like that, okay? I'm telling you, it could actually favor the Kraken early in a series, him coming back in a weird way. Just saying. Just saying. I know I'm reaching. I know I'm reaching.
Just a little bit.
So it's great tactic by the Kraken. Let the Wild win easy. That way, in the first round of the playoffs, they take us lightly and Kraken sweep Wild 4-0. See, they're on board. That's what it's all
I guess
about.
so. I feel like they could have let him have it easier if that was really the strategy. I mean, they didn't make it easy on the Wild
Yeah.
early.
Yeah. Sarah, I do love the boys hustling to prevent the shutout. I'm always going to love this team. I am too. It's their effort level and everything is so good. Stratic, I wouldn't mind seeing Minnesota if Bowie kidnaps Marc-Andre Fleury and keeps him in Bowie's sub CPA layer for the duration of the series. I mean, never say never.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone could pull that off, I think Bowie could do it. They'd have a fun time together too. It's not like a situation where Fleury would he would be treated well. I think you better treat him well, otherwise I
Yeah.
would get mad. I think we all would because we all love Marc-Andre Fleury. You can't hate the guy, but
Yeah.
just give him a nice, cool place below CPA for the duration of the series.
Yeah, he gets locked in a broom closet. It happens. It happens. It just does. You know, um, X Kid Z sigh from the highs of last game to the lows of this game. Yeah, this yeah. Unfortunately, TBK was so busy today, I genuinely forgot a Kraken game was going on tonight. Looks like I did not miss a banger though. No, if you were to miss one, this is one to miss.
Yeah, definitely a good one to miss if you had to pick one.
Yep. Strata, clip Dylan's anti-wild take now. Go for it, but also clip this. Or you know what? Make sure you got the very beginning of it where I just said I would take Minnesota over a Vegas, Colorado, or Dallas series. I'm not saying that it's a guaranteed win. I'm not saying any of those things, but I do think that they would be an easier and better matchup for the Kraken than those other three teams. I still think Kings number one. I think that's the way to go. I think you can get lucky against Edmonton if certain things happen for you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I think I would choose Minnesota over those other three teams. Those other three teams scare me more.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this debate too. On I'm guessing next week's podcast will probably
Yes.
really break this down about what playoff opponents we want and don't want. It'll be cool to see some disagreement there.
I'm just saying, if you choose Dallas, because that's probably like the other worst option of those, you choose Dallas. What? You just want to lose every game in the last minute or watch them tie it every night for 7 games? Like, come on, everybody. You know?
Yeah, that is no fun.
That's my 4D chess try to salvage the situation here. Edward, hey, which team still has 100% shutouts in their wins in the season series, huh? I think we know who the real winners are. All right, see, so Edward's on board with me trying to stretch positives really to
Yeah.
try to make this all work.
Yeah, this is the first game of the season series between these two teams that wasn't a shutout for somebody,
Yes.
even though it kind of felt like a shutout for somebody.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that is a big deal.
Make for an
Kyle,
interesting playoff series.
Yep, Kyle couldn't catch the game, but it sounds like Fleury over Kraken all day. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. You got it. Ty, do we talk about how they changed face-off? Centers went full attack mode and tried to skate through different look than usual for us, and it worked. Again, like we were able to win the face-off battle on this one. That was a big, big deal. I do like that change for the Kraken. I'm just not convinced that we'll see it past this game.
Yeah, exactly. It's the kind of thing I wouldn't be surprised if they just go back to normal after this one. Maybe there was something they looked at on film that with the Wild and how they approach face-offs. I don't know, but it's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on in their next game.
Yep, Daniel, Joey, bring him back. I know. Lonnie, can you explain the first penalty for goaltender interference? Flower was so far out of his crease that I thought he was trying to start a fight with Gru.
Yeah. So okay, on that first penalty, or I can let you handle it, Dylan.
No, I was gonna say if you want to, you're better about that kind of stuff. You know the rules better, at least the language of the rules better than I. But I had kind of the same thought. I was like, Schwartz is basically just jumping in one spot. Flower was still coming out into him. I don't know how that's on Schwartz.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know that Flower was coming out into him, and just because a goaltender is out of their crease doesn't mean they're fair game for contact. And the way I saw it, and again, I only saw it, kind of a couple times they showed on replay, but it looked like Fleury was more or less set in his position to make the save. Schwartz didn't know where Fleury was, but he was still moving, and when he came down from that jump, basically landed on top of him. And so it's the onus is on the player there to be aware of the goal, where the goalie is, and not make unnecessary contact. That gets negated if you're pushed in by an opponent. But Schwartz clearly wasn't on that play. So yeah, the crease, isn't the only determining factor there.
Yeah, no, I knew the crease wasn't, but it still just felt like Schwartz, like if he's just jumping in place, like how is that on him, so to speak? It wasn't obvious, like, oh, I'm jumping like into you. You know what I mean? That's the part of that I was confused about.
Well, that's the thing. I'm looking back at it now. He was not jumping in place. Fleury was pretty much set. He was moving backwards and he kind of stopped, but like from where he starts the jump to where he lands, it's a good couple feet difference.
Okay. All right. Well then,
and that second angle on the replay kind of shows it as I'm looking at it now.
Yeah.
Try that stuff against. He is moving.
Yeah. Try that stuff against Ottinger. It doesn't work against Flower. I do know that. Flower isn't the kind of goalie that you try to give a bump to early in a series and see if you get into his head. Flower does feed off of that kind of stuff. You do that against a Jonathan Quick. That's who you do that against.
Yeah, exactly. Let him lose his head there.
Yep. You get somebody, a Hayden type who's only going to play 6 minutes a night, but his whole job is just to harass Jonathan Quick, and it'll work. You'll get a win. Gruby versus the Abs is nearly a guaranteed good series for us, especially with the injuries from Ibach. The Avs scare me, RJ. I mean, they're guys. You got Rantanen, McKinnon, McCarr. Like any of those guys can easily take over a series by themselves.
For sure. I'm looking forward to this next podcast episode because I'm
Yeah.
gonna probably make the argument they are near the best case scenario. So this is gonna be really fun.
Interesting. I mean, I don't love their depth. I've talked about that, but I worry about the Kraken's ability to deal with some of that. XKidZ ESPN broadcast talking about being concerned about the Kraken's lack of physicality during the playoffs. What are your guys' thoughts on this? So we talked about this a little bit on the deep dive earlier today, RJ, and we both kind of came to the conclusion that the Kraken have to lean into embracing their depth scoring, lean into embracing the Daniel Sprongs of the lineup, and just kind of go with that speed and try to win in that way because it's what the roster is kind of built for right now.
Yeah, you just don't have the players to play a super physical game. As much as they have guys who have size like a Carson Soucy, Jamie Alexiak, we've seen enough of those guys to know kind of what their game is, and they're not going to be especially punishing. And especially they don't have the forwards to go in and really forecheck and do that kind of stuff where you're laying bodies on opponents. Maybe Brandon Tanev can do it a little bit, but yeah, I mean the Kraken are never going to really out physical another team in a playoff series as they're built right now. So you might as well lean the other way and just try and outscore them when you've got the bottom six on the ice.
Right. And these last two Nashville games are the perfect example. The first game, they tried to be physical and match Nashville's physicality. And we saw the result of that one. It was a 2-1 loss in overtime. In the second one, they just said, let's just go and be better than this injury depleted Nashville team. And they won 7-2. It's pretty obvious what the Kraken need to be embracing and what they're built for. Lindsay, okay, but even if Flower is cold, Philip Gustafsson somehow had a better save percentage and goals against if we get him instead. Gustafsson, though, has also been streaky. I know this because he basically ousted me from the fantasy playoffs. So he had like just brutal stretch while I had him. So I'm not sold on him, but I'm biased.
Yeah, I mean he's still a very good goaltender. He's had a good season.
Yes.
It's going to be tricky in net, no matter who they face if it's Minnesota.
Right. And, also part of the whole situation around Minnesota and their goaltending is also their defense. I mean, it's an incredible defensive unit in front of them, RJ. Yeah, they maybe don't have somebody that you're like, oh, wow, that's like, Duncan Keith in like 2010 or something, right? Where it's just like this one player is so fantastic. But the fact that I know and could tell you like the play styles and all that stuff around all six of their defensemen, because they're really like all six, like borderline, 2 3s on a lot of teams, tells you that that's an incredibly deep group. And I think what we saw tonight from them is they do a very good job of keeping their goaltenders' sight lines open so that they can make saves. And they do a good job of not allowing people inside for rebounds. They don't allow passing through the normal passing lanes that most teams want to take, including the Kraken. They're very, very good at locking those things down and then letting the goaltender make the saves they need to. Minnesota all year long has allowed a ton of shots on goal. They're not known for shot suppression, but they're allowing a lot of low quality shots get through to their goaltenders. They're easy saves for their goaltenders. And then you know what? Their goaltenders' stats look a little bit better because they're making a bunch of junk saves. That helps inflate the stats a little bit, but it also does help their goaltenders gain confidence because they're making a bunch of saves. So I do think that the defense needs to be brought up when we talk about the Flower Gustafsson talk as well.
Yeah, no, you make a good point there.
Steve Dog, ESPN does it all the time during baseball games too. Yeah, but baseball games, there's a lot of downtime while it's, in play. So I'll
Yeah,
allow
you need
it.
to fill that time.
I'll allow it. Let's see. We wasted all our goal support in Nashville. Got to score a few to give ourselves a chance. Still missing Berkey, but my hot take is that he isn't anywhere near ready and will miss the playoffs. That's from Lindsay. We talked about that on the deep dive earlier today too, RJ. And you know what? I am all ready to look the fool if team comes back to Seattle and he starts like practicing Wednesday or whatever.
I know. Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye out for it. Yeah, team day off tomorrow, and they will be practicing again on Wednesday. So, of course, I'll be reporting from that one.
Yeah. Let's see. Habak, I knew I wasn't crazy for believing most of those goals weren't on Gruby. Very thankful for you guys during these post-game lives and keeping me sane. Some people online need to touch some grass. Like it's rough with goaltending because it is, the numbers for it look very black and white. And it's just like, well, if you allowed the goals, that's bad. But it doesn't take into context the way the game is actually played. Like there's just there's so many other factors that go into whether or not a goaltender is going to make a save, that if you really want to try to analyze it, you have to try to take in all of that information. But I understand why it's hard, because then it is a ton of information that you're trying to break down, a lot of which can be subjective. And that's where things just get super muddied, and it's tough.
Yeah, and also just again with the contract too, I think feel like that's hanging over evaluations of every single game that he plays. People have the contract in mind instead of just seeing, okay, in this particular game as a goalie, take the pay out of it. What's he
Yes.
doing?
Right. Well, and I feel like that plays into this next one from Burnt Krem. Seriously, Grubauer is the weakest leak on this team. Please stop with "it's not his fault." That contract is going to hinder the franchise for years. We knew it last year, and it is confirmed this year. Again, we're not fans of that contract. We would not have signed that contract. We've been on that boat from day one. But realities is he's here and he is going to be here. So let's try to work around that. And I still think that those other things I mentioned for the Kraken, clearing the zone, playing better net fronts, scoring on the power play, again, those to me make bigger differences and change the outcomes of games more than Philip Grubauer being in net versus Martin Jones or Joey Decord. That's the bottom line in my mind.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So again, it's not that I'm like trying to defend him. Oh, nothing's his fault, all that kind of stuff. It's just that I think there are bigger problems that are costing the Kraken more than him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this game's a perfect example. Like, could Philip Grubauer have played better, maybe given you one or two more saves? Absolutely.
You
Does that
still
mean you win
lose.
this game? No.
Yeah, you're still losing. So I don't know. Let's see. Becca's in favor of the Gruby Joey tandem. I would be too. I'm fine with that. Daniel, didn't see the game because I'm an old gray hair and still pay for cable. Did Jones give up a goal on that first shot that came against him? Did the Kraken even try to get redirects net front? Jones didn't give up his goal on the first shot against him. I think it was the sixth shot on Martin Jones.
Something like that.
Yeah, and then they didn't really establish a net front presence. No, Daniel. That's part of why I think they struggled today.
Yeah.
Lindsay, I'm way more worried about the Kraken's abysmal power play than the perceived lack of grit and toughness they were harping on in the broadcast. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that because
Totally.
that's also how you, again, when you have a physical playoff series and this stuff adds up, it gets dangerous when the other team feels like they can take liberties on your players with relative impunity because you can't make them pay on the power play. That becomes a real important issue in the playoffs that you don't see as much in the regular season. But it can be almost kind of physically dangerous to your players to have a bad power play.
Yeah, exactly. And then, Burnt Krem talking about that as well. They're not wrong. It's why every contender goes and gets physical guys at the deadline. You're also correct. The power play is very bad. I mean, certainly having physical players like that work. That's why we were very much in favor with Hackstall of bringing in John Hayden instead of a Daniel Sprong and trying to make the fourth line that way. The problem is John Hayden got hurt and he was your best option there. Now you have to work with what you have, and that's Daniel Sprong, and that doesn't support trying to play physical. Again, I'm not overly hopeful about the Kraken's chances at a long playoff run in general. But it just because. But I do think that their best option, given who they have available to them, is to try to lean away from the physical approach, try to lean into depth scoring. I just think it's their only path.
Yeah, and it's hard to blame anybody for, what happened with Hayden. Like they had their physical player ready to go, decided upon, that was the plan. And then when he goes out for the season, like what can you do? I guess you could trade for another guy at the deadline, for redundancy if something should happen to Hayden, but you're not in a position right now to trade futures for a backup physical player.
Right. It didn't make sense. As we saw with the Kraken, they didn't make really any moves. They said, look, we're just going to kind of see what happens. We think we're a playoff team. Our competitive window is later. That's what we're going for.
Yeah.
Hunter, 5.9 is hindering a team. Lol, cap is going up. Also, Wenberg and Eberle are coming off the books at the end of next season. Flawed argument. Talking about the Groovy contract stuff. I mean, it's certainly not helpful because what it means is if you go out to get a different goaltender, then all of a sudden you're spending 10 million on goaltending, 11 million on goaltending against the cap, and that's where it starts becoming
It's the
hindering.
term.
It's the term of it all that is frustrating with it. But I do agree. I mean, overall, the cap situation for the Kraken looks very good as of right now, but this is also pre Vince Dunn extension, pre Matty extension, pre Shane Wright extension, bridge deal a couple years from now. The situation will change pretty quick soon enough. Um, let's see, lots of talk about that. Becca, why is the chat so feisty tonight? So it's all about goaltending. It really gets everybody going. I love it. Let's see. Hey, AKA, I love the Kraken too, but tough love, man. Exactly. Burn Crime pointed out too. Most of that will go to Don. Agreed. Um, I'm certainly saying Marc-Andre Fleury and Bowie would be a bromance for the ages too. It really would.
Totally, they would get along.
Oh, and I like this from Becca. Classic Flurry pranks. Could you imagine? That's really how Bowie would keep a Flower distracted through a series. It would just be by starting a prank war. Because Flower can't let that go. We know this about Flower. He can't. He has to try to win any prank war he's involved in. So if Bowie can just really get him good just to start something off, Flower will be completely off his game for all the games at CPA. Completely.
Totally. That sounds like a strategy there too. I bet Bowie could hang too. It'd be a good prank war.
It would be really, really good. And can you imagine then, Bowie just down at the glass around him during the stoppages. Flower goes to take his little lap to the right side there. And who's there waiting for him? It's Bowie with some sign hinting at whatever prank he just pulled on Flower. Like, hey, you better, wait till you find out what's waiting for you back in the locker room, just get in his head, stuff like that. I think it would be good.
Yeah.
Daniel, what happened in the fight at the end of the game? So we had which Shaw is it? I always want to
Mason.
Say it's M Shaw.
Right.
Yeah, Mason Shaw.
Yep.
Mason Shaw of the Wild. There was a puck up in the air. Susie was waiting to kind of paw it down, and Mason Shaw hit Susie as he was doing so. So obviously his eye, he was not being prepared to be hit. He was focused on doing something else. Obviously took down Susie in a big way. And so Yanni Gourde was standing up for his teammate and Carson Susie there and kind of started a fight. And it was a fight, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, not too much to that fight, but really I think the whole incident was just a bit of message sending both ways, because you look at that hit, it's a clean hit, nothing wrong with it, but it's not necessary in a 5-1 game with a minute and a half to go. Like, you can just kind of let Carson Susie bring that puck down and make a play with it, or wait to check him until he has his eyes back down. So, but it's a clean hit, but I think that's a bit of a message sent there by Shaw that look, even though the score is what it is, we're gonna fight you the whole way. We're not going to give you anything easy, because this very well could be a playoff series. And then, of course, after that hit is delivered, it's clean, but Yanni Gourde goes in there and says, yeah, you're not going to be able to get away with this against us. We're not just going to let you off the hook after that. So a little bit of messages sent on both sides.
Yeah, and it has to be on both of their minds too that they could be facing each other in the first round. That is a realistic possibility. So you also want to send that message on really either side, whether it's Shaw making that hit or it's Yanni Gourde standing up for his teammate, that hey, if we see you guys here in a couple weeks, understand that things are not going to be easy, or this game isn't going to go the same way. All of that kind of stuff needs to be sent. And yeah, I don't fault Gourde for sticking up for his teammate there in Susie. And yeah, I don't know why Shaw made that hit. He didn't seem to really know why he made that hit either, which was I thought kind of funny. Hunter, I imagine Dunn will get 7 million, so that leaves roughly 6 million in cap space from the 9 million in cleared space. I think Vince Dunn is playing his way into more than 7 million, RJ.
Agreed. I think he's working his way toward 8 or maybe even more.
Yeah, 8.5 is probably where we're at. Super chat here. Let me scroll down from Light. Our PK has had 80% efficiency since the Edmonton game. Why am I reading everywhere that the PK is still dragging us down? I don't know where this is coming from, RJ. Like, it's in everybody's head that our PK was really bad, because it was unbelievably bad for a very long time to start the season. But really, it should be everyone saying the power play. Like, it's not even like, oh, that got fixed and now there isn't a thing, so everyone's just still harping on that. It's like, no, there's actually a legitimate thing to be talking about like that, and it's the power play.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at the special teams, there should be kind of no debate at this point about which, is the bigger problem for the Kraken. And yeah, I mean, I'm looking at where they rank on the PK like over the course of the season. They're still 26th in the NHL, but a lot of that is front loaded. 74.9% on the season, like 80+%. That's definitely in the top half of the league at that time. So I think the PK has gotten a lot better, including in some really tough spots that they've
Mhm.
stepped up in recent games too, against some very good power plays.
Oh, exactly. I mean, they've been really clutch when they've needed it to be. They've been able to keep the team in games at times when they've needed them to be. Like, there's a lot of aspects about it. I mean, the fact that they're up around 75% now. Remember, they were under 70 like into December or something crazy. Like under 70, like unbelievably bad. Us in Vancouver just down at the bottom like that. Yeah, I think they've made great strides. I think that's just people not really doing the research, or they're just looking at where they rank for the full season when they talk about the PK. But yeah, if you've been following the team closely, like all of us have been, we all know the special teams issue is is the power play for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me come back up, try to figure out where I was here. Lindsay, 9 games left in the season, down to single digits after tonight. How we feeling? Alleged easier opponents coming up, but a lot at home and 2 back-to-backs. Yeah, some scary stuff on that schedule, but I'm still feeling really good, RJ.
Yeah, I am too. And you look at the opponents. I mean, there's still a few teams that should be able to just play you and beat you in the way that Minnesota had, like where they can finish really well. We'll see how the Coyotes end up being. Have the Kraken played them at all this season? Are
I
all
don't
the games lumped into April?
I think all the games were lumped into April, and we kind of joked about that at the beginning of the year because they certainly haven't gone to Mullet Arena yet. And yeah, I don't see them. I'm like doing a quick scan, but yeah, I don't see Arizona yet. So
So that's going to be a bit of an unknown. The Kraken have had problems with Arizona in the past, but again, that was last year's team, very different than this year's team. I'm interested to see how those two match up because the
mhm.
Coyotes, again, they play you tough, they make you work for it. So that should be a good measuring stick there, for the Kraken as far as putting the effort in and making sure the effort is on point. But ultimately, no, I'm not too worried. You look at the next game against Anaheim. They really ought to win that one. Like
Yeah,
there should be no problems there. They have enough of those games that you should be able to collect enough points.
right. You're a better team than the Ducks, the Coyotes, and the Blackhawks for sure. And I think you're a better team than the Canucks. And realistically, they've played very well against the Kings. So the only games left on the schedule that I'm worried about, or that in my mind we can kind of soft pencil in an L, would be the last 2 games against Vegas. But the rest of the schedule, they're going to win enough that the playoffs are, they're going to be fine. As far as making it anyway.
Yeah.
It's all going to come down to who they end up having to go up against. Scott, who do you want to play in the first round? Is this a playoff preview? We're going to be doing all that stuff on next week's deep dive because we wanted to wait for this Minnesota game so we could, see how they played against them. But I think we're in agreement of the available choices. LA is
Yep.
the
I
one
think we
we
can
want.
agree on that.
Yeah. Let's see. Levi, 6 of the 9 remaining games finish at home. What do you think our record is to finish the rest of the season? Uh, I don't know, RJ. Like, let's say got these 9 games left. I could see 5-4 or 6-3.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. I'm checking the calendar. Let's see. Uh,
Because, like I said, I'm not overly confident about the Vegas games, and figure maybe Arizona in Arizona gets you just because they get everybody in Arizona
I
for
think
some
I think you
reason.
take some reason like 2 out of the 3 against Arizona. If I'm just
Yeah,
doing the quick math, you beat Anaheim probably. LA and Vancouver, I think you win one of those because Vancouver's weird. You probably
yeah,
beat Chicago, and then you maybe pencil in those 2 Vegas losses, and that's that.
yeah. Ty bringing up a good point here. Dang, we just came off a 5 out of 6 point series, and people are like, "We're getting swept." Lol. And we did that against Dallas and Nashville. I mean, like a playoff team and a borderline playoff team. Like these weren't like bad teams. It wasn't like, "Oh man, we sure swept through Anaheim and San Jose." Like
Yeah,
it's true. It's just one game. You do got to remember that. Keep it in perspective.
yeah,
Daniel 6-3 to get to 900. I mean, to get to 900, to get to 100. Excuse me,
yeah,
900 points. Wow, that's Boston territory. Um, Bowie probably has a bunch of cool retro arcade games and bubble hockey in his cavern, so Marc-Andre Fleury would hardly notice the time fly by while Flower napped. Definitely, Stratic, definitely. Uh, Burnt Creme, this team is not built for the playoffs. Poor special teams and bad goaltending, the exact opposite of what all other playoff teams have. Right, but again, this team wasn't built for the playoffs this year. And we know that because again, they were the one team to not add at the deadline. Every other team, look at all the other teams right now in a postseason position. They all added, they made moves. Ron Francis didn't. And so I do think that that was kind of their way of like saying, you know, it's
Yeah,
nice to make the
whatever we
playoffs.
get from here is a bonus, and that's
Yeah.
kind of, I think, the mindset. And I think we all have to kind of look at it that way. The
Mhm.
Kraken are ahead of schedule. They could have plugged some of those holes at the trade deadline, but it would not have been worth it long term for what it would have costed.
Yep, for sure. I'm guessing we finished with 98 points at the end of the season, aka my birth year. Let's go. Would love to be proven wrong and hit 100 points, but this game made it much less likely. From Lindsay there. Yeah, I think 98 is probably spot on
It
there
seems in
based on what we
range.
just talked about. Daniel, are you guys nervous at all about playing the Coyotes? They've been playing really well lately. I'm definitely nervous about them going into Mullet Arena. They beat everybody there, RJ. I don't know what's going on.
I know they do. The mullet magic is in full effect there. But I don't know. Maybe if we could potentially get you to one of those games, it might turn the tide.
Well, that's the hope anyway. I want to go to one of those games so bad. I want to see that it like in person. But the fact that you get two of them at CPA, the Coyotes on the road this year, 7-23-9. That looks pretty good. I know the Kraken aren't the best team at home, but you know what? That's a really bad road record. That's a really bad road record. But yes, Coyotes are a good team. They have some skill. They've got good goaltender. Like they can make some stuff happen on any given night. You can't take them lightly.
For
Definitely
sure.
say that. Super chat here from Becca. Which team in the West has gotten the most dangerous since we played them last? It's a very interesting question. Thank you for the
Ooh.
super chat, Becca. Um, I don't know. I mean, Colorado probably.
Yeah, I
Just
would say Colorado is a good one because again, they're getting players healthy again.
yeah.
Um, yeah, Colorado might be a good answer. Let me think about that though. Is there anybody else?
I mean, do you count Vegas because Quick has gotten there and kind of solidified the goaltending, and now Logan Thompson's back too. So
Yeah,
Vegas
I think
maybe.
actually Vegas might be the answer because again, the Kraken last played them in November.
Yeah, it's been
So
a
I mean,
while.
they've really hit their stride, especially recently. Since then, I do think they're a much better team, even though they've lost Mark Stone. Actually, I don't remember if they had him all the way back in November at that point. But yeah, I think they've really come into their own. So Vegas might be the other answer.
Yeah, I think it would be one of those two. But I'm still like as far as like the greatest upgrades made around trade deadline time, I think that was probably Edmonton
Yeah,
personally.
Edmonton made some really big ones. Although LA's aren't to be understated either. Again, Jonas
Yes.
Corposalo has been very good for them. So
Yeah.
we'll see that very soon for the Kraken.
Yeah. I mean, they went from being like around a net neutral goal differential team to now being plus 22, and they did that in a very short period of time. That's scary. That is
Yeah.
definitely scary. Sarah, don't forget to like the stream, y'all. Appreciate it, Sarah. Definitely. Um, let's see. We get Andre Burakovsky back for the playoffs. Him and Philip Grubauer go off against the Colorado Avalanche for playoff round one. From Joey there. I mean, that is possible. We've seen revenge series happen and play out that way, RJ.
Yeah, they'd be super motivated, and we talked about goaltending. Is it good enough to win a playoff series? And there are a lot of questions around that. I feel the most confident for Grubauer against the Avs of any other team.
Yeah, I agree. Scott, according to some pundits, each home game generates approximately 5 million in playoff revenue for a club. That seems low to me, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I think it's
Because
more than that. We ran some kind of the basic numbers and it came out to even more than that. Playoff games generate a ton of revenue. That is why a lot of the
yes,
bubble teams will try and go for it because the owners, I mean, they want that playoff revenue.
yeah, it is a big deal. I will tell you this right now. I mean, the Kraken on home games are making close to the 5 million just on tickets, not counting in parking, concessions, merchandising, all that stuff. We've run the numbers and stuff. Like, I mean, anybody can. You just look up the average price of a Kraken ticket and then how many seats are sold there, and you know that they're selling out most of those games. It's a pretty easy dollar figure to come to. So that might be because some markets and some teams really kind of drag down the average in the NHL. I will give them that. But when it comes to, like, say, a Seattle and the Kraken, that number is going to be much higher than $5 million.
Oh, for
Definitely.
sure.
Um, Other problems aside, it'll be really interesting to see if our line depth can beat a top heavy team in the playoffs. I hope so. It's boring hearing about the same stars driving scoring. It will be interesting, and maybe that is the case to be made for against a Colorado type team, is that if you can just slow down the top line enough, your depth beats out theirs, again, leaning into like a Daniel Sprong type approach. Maybe that is the difference. I'm open to that.
It'll be an interesting case study too, because teams that are built like the Kraken or like Vegas in their first year, they don't come around very often because the salary cap system kind of discourages that whole kind of team build. You really can't sustain it for very long. So there's only limited times you even get to see a matchup like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Ty, anyone else amused by the NHL headlines about star Ryan Reeves reacting to smelling salts? Lol. Yes, teach kids to huff. Good example. Lol. Yeah, he's been like all over social media all of a sudden lately. What has been all that about?
I think it's that he scored 4 goals in, what was it, 7
Yeah,
or 9 games after
yeah,
scoring 0 all the way up till then in the season. Yeah, I guess what he's scoring even just a little bit, like it's big news, and so you got to feature him.
definitely. Good night, Brent Krem. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. Daniel, even when he's good, Guru has never been good for more than 4 games in a row. That's kind of fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Lindsay, RJ needs to pitch this buoy prank war to Hackstall to form a strategy for the playoffs. At least tell the Kraken social media admin for some funny content. Lol.
If that series comes to pass, I may pass on a little something to the social media team to see if they can start a prank war between Bowie and Flower.
Yeah. Let's see here. Stratic, one physical fourth liner can help, but only so much if that's how you want to play. The Kraken defensive pairings are pretty physical top to bottom, but the top 6 forwards lack some necessary size. Yeah, but you don't necessarily want your top 6 to be the ones like out there grinding it out in the playoff series either. Traditionally, you want them to
But when they
score.
can do it too, I mean, that's
Yeah,
just super valuable. You would have guys that are that skilled, but can also take the physical toll.
right. But then, should have traded for Matthew Tkachuk. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. They're hard to come by and they're
Yeah.
valuable, but yeah.
I heard Bowie has a high PSAT score, pranks, shenanigans, antics, and tomfoolery. I love that, Edward. That's getting a capture here from me. That's what that's getting. Kalen, on the radio, they said Gord started the fight because Susie wouldn't fight someone smaller than him. Is that? I don't know that I would back that up based on what I saw. Like, because
Yeah, I mean,
Susie
Susie gave
immediately
him a
goes and
couple shoves.
cross-checks
Yeah.
him. Yeah, like he was asking to go. If anything, Shaw was like, "Can I fight someone more my size?"
Right.
And Gord was there to do it.
Yeah. The intricacies of the code.
Well, I was gonna say there's all sorts of weird stuff about that. I mean, you almost wonder if part of why Gord came in there was because of that. Was like we can't let like Susie just destroy this guy that's 6 inches smaller than him. Like we just can't do it.
Yeah.
I need to do this. It wouldn't surprise me if that played a role in it. Ty, I have to give Piper a shout out here. She asked Tolvey if he knew the fans were calling him Golvanin. He said, "Oh, that's a lot to live up to. This is the content I love." It is. It's phenomenal. She's been
Yes, no,
doing a
and
great job.
Piper is always there for us and for the memes. Like she is great. She knows this stuff. She knows what we enjoy.
Yes. Habak, we should gaslight and manipulate the Avs into giving us Cale Makar. Ron Francis is capable of anything. I'll even take Adam Fox. I'll take either of those guys.
Yeah, no complaints here.
Yeah. Just gotta like do one of those like classic like Three Stooges things about like I give you 20, you give me 10, and then I give you whatever, and then whatever. Just do that with like Vince Dunn and his extension, all
There
around
you
that,
go.
and how many points they all score. You just get enough numbers going. All right. I'm telling you, Joe Sakic's abacus is not going to keep up with it all.
That's pretty funny.
If you're waiting, let's see. If you're waiting for the puck, shouldn't that be interference? Shaw waited to hit Susie until Susie did have the puck. It was just while he was still kind of coming down with it. So it's technically
exactly.
not. But yes, you are correct. If he had hit him before the puck got there, it would have been interference. Let's see. Rebecca, headed to Seattle next week, and my game choices were Arizona or Arizona. Lol.
Which one did you pick?
Yeah, let us know. Might try to hit up Queen Anne Beer Hall for the away Vancouver game though. Shout out to the sponsor. Yes, definitely. I would strongly suggest anybody go check them out. Get it all figured out. Figure out what your order is and everything before playoff time, because then that place is gonna really be jumping for Kraken playoff time. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. And make sure a pretzel is part of your order. Those pretzels are so good. I've been
The
craving
pretzels are
one.
very, very good. Definitely, definitely. Lindsay, Mullet Magic versus Kraken Road Warriors. Unstoppable force meets immovable object. Who will come out on top? Hire me as the hype girl for TV promos at Root Lol. Definitely, you would kill it in that role, Lindsay, all
Oh, for
day.
sure.
Let's see. Kraken Cove. How have none of the teams in the Western Conference clinched? It's a good point.
There
It's
aren't
getting
any
late.
like truly great teams in the West this regular season. I mean, nobody's been able to really pull away. And I guess Calgary and Nashville have kind of been staying close, as far as the teams that can
Yeah.
catch them. But yeah, nobody lapping the
It,
field like Boston in the West.
wait till the end of the week. It'll happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, the clinch will come very soon. Probably Vegas
Yes.
first.
Yeah. Let's see. Daniel, seeing this team in the playoffs will make it easier to move on from the third and fourth liners we will not be able to afford after this season. I know it'll help a little bit. Daniel,
Yeah.
haven't played LA and Vegas in forever. It's been so long. I mean, this schedule has been wacky this year, RJ.
Very much so. I mean, the double games against the Predators, the 3 against the Stars in recent memory, Coyotes coming up. It's just odd.
It's really odd. Light, hey guys, did some math. Our PK this month has only allowed 7 power play goals on 38 penalties, and I believe this would be considered a bad month for us. You want to run the numbers there,
All
RJ?
right. Let's see. 31 of 38 is 81.5%.
It's 7 power play goals on 38 penalties.
So yeah, that would be
yeah,
31
31.
of 38. So
Yeah.
that would be that'd be 81.5%.
Yeah, that's great. That's fine. That's top half of the league.
Yeah.
There's
where would that
nothing
rank
wrong
season
here.
wise?
There's definitely nothing wrong here.
Yeah, that'd rank 11th in the NHL over the course of this season.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
Let's see. JTT talking some stuff. Wild would be better when Kaprizov's back. Gustafson's playing better than Fleury. Kraken goaltending will not last in the playoffs. We'll find out. We'll find out. It's bottom line. Daniel, there are a lot of guys on this team that have done some incredible things in the playoffs. There are. And come on. All we have to do is for the last 2 Vegas games, RJ, scratch Daniel Sprong, and he gets inserted back in the lineup for game 1 of the playoffs. We're guaranteed 3 games of Daniel Sprong goals.
There you go. Perfect. Exactly. Yeah. Scratch him in the lead up just to get him ready. And Daniel adding to just ask Eberle what Yanni did to his Islanders.
Exactly.
I'm going to not bring that up to Jordan Eberle. I don't think you'll want to remember that.
Yes, definitely. Wow, that is funny. The Sprong banter is entertaining. Let's just fire all scouts everywhere since we only need stats. Haha. Good cost savings. You could pay the man then. Lol from Ty. Definitely. It's there's nobody else like him. It's crazy. One of one, that whole situation. For sure.
He is unique.
Rebecca, I picked the Arizona behind door number 1. All right, there we go. I saw that clip of the Bavarian meat blaster, and I think my seats are right behind it.
Perfect. Good choice in the seats there. Yes. What is it? The Bavarian meats. What's the official name? Something sausage cannon or something like that.
It's one of the coolest and most ridiculous things I've ever seen at a hockey game. And you just know people in Canada are freaking out about it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they are jealous, I am sure. No, the Bavarian meats Bratzuka is what the name is.
It's even better. They must have had Lindsay name it. Awesome. Oh, that is really awesome. Stratic, don't sleep on LA. They have plenty of finishing talent, in my opinion, and are well built for playoff hockey. I totally agree with you, Stratic. It's just that we've been able to play, for whatever reason, we've got their number.
Yeah,
or at least
the
we did.
matchup's just been better.
Yeah, or at least we did earlier. That's all it is. On the upside, this team will likely practice on Wednesday. Good time to get a reset and blow the Ducks out of the pond from Lights. I definitely like the play on words there. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what that game is all going to be about. We're just going to see this team go off.
It's the perfect get right game. And everyone's going to be eager to do that after this one.
Definitely. Ty, welcome to the depths, lol, brat slingers. I'm like, to be honest, how has this not become more of a thing within Kraken fandom and around the NHL? Like, seriously.
I know. I mean, I've seen. I guess I've heard this is not the first place or game or team or whatever that a sausage cannon like this has appeared at, but this is the first I've heard of it. It's just amazing.
Right,
Also, what was
because
cool is like a few games before where they first broke it out, I saw them practicing it, like using it before the game. It's like hours before a Kraken game, and I'm just like, "What is that?" As they're just firing these brats into empty seats in the crowd, and I'm just like, "I can't believe this. What are they going to use this?" It was amazing just to see them practicing it beforehand.
I was gonna say, is this for concerts? Like, what is this? Yeah. Oh man, that must be something to behold, definitely. Lindsay, that's how we motivate Groovy to play better. You gotta give us some saves or no Bavarian meat Bratzuka dogs for you. Guaranteed shutout. Exactly. Exactly. Oh man. And Stratic, yeah, LA has a new number to get now post Korpisalo and Gavrikov. Agreed.
That is true.
Agreed. Habak, if we play LA, we have to put in Jones. Doesn't matter how much LA scores, we will somehow win. I can attest to that.
Yes, exactly. You can back us up.
Oh man, that's so good. Oh man. Light, I was gonna make a silly little line picture like the others I've made on Discord. So far the names are MBE, the freeway, Yanni line, the depth charge fourth line, and the one when he centers. I like that. Like, I don't know if that's your nickname for that line, but I like the idea of it's just and the one when he centers.
Yeah, no, that's
Like
that's
that
pretty
is
good.
like that's just good. That's the way it is. And then I think this is a good one to finish off this post game live here from Edward. How do Dylan, RJ, in this community always get me smiling and laughing even after a rough loss? Love you all, ECH fam. Love you too, Edward, and love all of you guys. This has been fun.
Yeah, no, I love all of you, and this is what happens every time. This like might have been this season like one of the ones I was least looking forward to go and talking about after. I was just like, what do you even what do you even make of this? But of course, true to form, you all have left me smiling and happy and loving this after an hour. So I just thank you all for being this awesome community and kind of being able to work through any possible game the Kraken could have together and having a great time doing it.
Yep, absolutely. It's incredible. It's still the best part about doing all this. I know we get to go to like games for free and all that kind of stuff, but still, just being around the community, being able to chat with everybody on Discord, Twitter, in here for these live games, it is the most rewarding part. Definitely, definitely. Thank you everybody for joining us for this one. Okay, so that is the from Light. That is the name for the line, the one when he centers. I like it, Rebecca. That sounds like a Friends episode. It definitely does. Thanks everybody for joining us for this one. Yeah, I mean, we get to reset. Kraken come back home against the Ducks on Thursday. Should be a good one. Looking forward to it. We'll catch you all after that one.